we expect tomorrow? Michelle?
All right, many thanks, Duncan. They're joining us from CIR. Headline stances coming in from residents of CIR and supporters of a leader of the National Resistance Movement, Raila Odinga. They're saying they will not participate in the election scheduled for tomorrow in the 4 counties of Kisumu, Siaya, Homa Bay, and Migori. And before I introduce my panelists here in studio, let's take a look at what is at stake in the larger Nyanza region. And will this change what's on the ballot, even if they vote to the man? It is a region with a total estimated voter turnout of about 1.4 million registered voters. So in Siaya there, 457,953 registered voters. We also have 916 polling stations in Siaya County, all of which did not participate in yesterday's election. We also have County 042, Kisumu County, 539,210 registered voters with 1,027 registered polling stations in the region there. And then we have Homa Bay County 043, 476,875 registered voters. Those voting in 1,062 polling stations. And we also have Migori County, for County 044, 388,633 registered voters in 826 constituencies. So the total number of registered voters in those 4 counties are accounting for 1.8 million registered voters. In the August 8th election, Raila Odinga had an overwhelming majority of the support in these regions, about 99% of the vote in Siaya, 99% of the vote in Homa Bay, 85% of the vote in Migori. So what will this postponed election in the 4 counties mean? Well, in studio with us for this conversation, Dr. John Kamau, who is a political analyst. We also have Catherine Omayo, chair lady of the Women Candidates Network here in Kenya. Many thanks for joining us, and Kivumbi, ladies and gentlemen. So we've heard from residents, of Siaya, of Migori, of Homa Bay, on what they think of tomorrow's election in these 4 counties. I mean, John, what would you say informed this decision to postpone the election to tomorrow in this region? And the bigger question is, what will be different by tomorrow that will convince these people to vote?
Michelle, maybe I'll start by correcting you. The name is Sam Kamau, not John Kamau. But having said that, I think you've seen the sentiments coming from these particular areas. And I think yesterday, 26, when we were supposed to have the elections, I think there were 3 scenarios that are developed. There are those people who heeded the call to come out and vote. There are also those who heeded the call to boycott the elections and decided to stay at home. And then there was a third worrying scenario where there were what you'd call confrontations with the police. In some of the cases, there's those who also tried to disrupt or block the process. And I think as a way of expressing that election should not happen, and I think the 4 counties that have been mentioned fall in that category, where it's not that people just decided to boycott, although I'm sure in the inner regions, just besides the urban centers, there are people who deliberately stayed away. But I think we saw that the polling material in some cases, or even the polling officials, could either not access the polling stations or decide to stay away, even the transporters. And I'll tell you, by the way, if I was a transporter hired by IEBC, and I've seen the clear message coming from the MCA, the MCAs in that particular region, saying that you shouldn't even dare. I actually think the decision to postpone, which is supported by the law, where there's a threat or, the breach of peace or an emergency or a disaster that hinders election. It was, yes, a good decision, but it doesn't necessarily resolve the issue, because it's not that elections could not happen because of a natural disaster. It's just that people did not want an election to happen in that particular area. And tomorrow, and I'm sure from the sentiments you have heard from the different people, besides the MCAs, I think there were other ordinary citizens who spoke, besides the concern about tomorrow being, a worship day for the 7th day. I think it is a general sentiment in that particular region that besides just boycotting, they do not want an election to happen. And I can expect I can actually predict with certainty that it will not happen. The same scenario will obtain, and maybe this time, because the focus will be these specific 4 counties, most likely we'll just have the same scenario. It will not change anything. In fact, the question is what changes between yesterday and tomorrow. So these cases of blocking access, my opinion and how I would read it is, I know even if materials reached the stations and the polling officials were again allowed to open the centers, there have been insignificant voter turnout. Because you have to remember, in what we have seen, not just in the strongholds of NASA, but even in what you'd call swing counties, the voting exercise was in itself a profiling exercise. That if you go to vote, it means then you either agree or you could be in Jubilee. Right. If you don't go to vote again, it could mean that maybe you are leaning. So it is actually, by the very action of going to vote, is a profiling exercise which can put you at risk in a sense. And I think that is the challenge, which speaks to the wider and political environment in our country.
All right. Catherine, they have been given an opportunity for this postponed election tomorrow. And Wafula Chebukati says, if you do not go to the ballot tomorrow, I will announce the result. The Constitution gives him 7 days to announce those results. What are the implications of this, considering it is clear residents of these counties do not want an election?
Actually, the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, is in a discombobulation state because he's jumping from the frying pan into the fire all the time. I think he should listen a little bit. He should take a breath. But I'm thinking he's either under some push, and it's better if he waited a little. In fact, even the yesterday elections, yes, it was okay. It happened. But if I was him, I could have exercised my executive powers to postpone the election. Because at the end of the day, what we will lose, if anything triggers us to go into war, we might take so many years to bring it all together. So I think the postponement into tomorrow is hurried again. And the way the mood on the ground is, I think it is good to also listen to the people. Right. If we are actually talking about the Kenyan people, it is not all about who is ready. And any government that puts its priorities on profits or economies is evil. It should put its priorities on the people. And the people's power is more stronger than the people in the power. So if they just grasp that for now, I think even President Uhuru will not be seated wherever he's seated pretty. He will be looking for Raila to talk. Because as it is today, even tomorrow, it will be a big flop.
All right. We'll come back with that conversation because I remember President Uhuru Kenyatta said he was very willing to meet Raila Odinga after the election, which has already happened. So we'll be waiting to see whether that will actually take place and the implications of the boycott in these 4 Nyanza counties in just a moment. On Kivumbi 2017, my panelists here in studio, Dr. Sam Kamau and Catherine Omayo, will be back with us in just a moment.